What up? What up? What up, everybody? Randy here, Nerds Templar, chilling with something a day later, and a dollar shorter than we meant to show. As is pretty obvious by the screen, I think we are watching tonight, this evening here, the first episode of my own story called Beyond Lumina, as you see. I have 10 episodes already posted. This is what we're watching. We're watching episode 1 of what is posted on YouTube right now on this channel. Currently watchable. I have, I believe, 15 episodes total written right now. I've been back to it. So we're going to watch live-ish these for I mean, maybe like 2 or 3 people who tune in during the live stream. But some of you may be on the VOD. We'll check it out. Watch it live-ish here together, and I'll be able to, I guess, for anyone who does actually tune in live, maybe in the future, perhaps in the next 10 episodes. We'll probably also do this for all the new releases as well, and then maybe in the future I'll be able to just chat about the story afterward with you fine folks in the chat, whoever's hanging around. So it'll be like I don't know, you get to chat with the author after every episode. So that's what it is. It's a serial, so it's kind of going through story arcs. Right now we're working through the first one. The Book of Aezic is what this first book is called, if you break it down into actual books, because that's what they technically are. This would be the Book of Aezic, number 1, Beyond Lumina. Just a couple other things that are kind of related. This would be Temple Foundry related, as it's one of our creations here. Just got our new printer in. That was a nice sale on Amazon. It's able to print up to 110-pound cardstock, which is quite heavy. It's not like super heavy, but it's definitely decent. It's definitely really good for the price of the printer, and for just a commercial printer in general to be able to print up to 110 is pretty good. Have 100-pound cardstock coming tomorrow that I think is supposed to be like semi-glossy. I'm hoping it's going to be like perfect for making some cards. I think my sister even has some 80 pounds she needs to offload on somebody. So I think I might take that to make some business cards to help to make for myself, to sell, to put in with the orders that I'm selling on TCG Player, which in fact we're up to 6 sales now, which is almost 7 would be a third of the way to level 3 seller already, making 2 sales, maybe a third actually, maybe that 7th one coming soon because someone's interested in our Charizard EX. Buddy boy we got sitting right here still next to us, as we usually are doing a Pokemon collection stream there. About $113 for that plus shipping, which is about $1 or so. Anyway, yeah, there's that, and just wanted to mention, because of that, we definitely want to get some card art going. I was also considering making some cool cards in the future of Beyond Lumina characters or things. So, because we're also going to be looking for art from Beyond Lumina, and we can do a lot of stuff now with this printer, I think. I mean, it's not like we have a 3D printer, although I do know a guy who will probably end up being a decent friend, I think, is if we continue in the comic shop Pokemon League stuff, which we probably will, and he plays some other stuff too. I don't know if he does Yu-Gi-Oh, but if he does, we might hang out with him there for Yu-Gi-Oh stuff too. But there's a guy there, my buddy in the making, Eric, who was talking about his new 3D printer, and I mentioned to him that I make games, and he was so we may have to cooperate in the future. Anyway, that is that. 5 minutes in here. I think that's enough time. Without further ado, guys, thanks for joining me. Like and subscribe. I hope you enjoy episode 1 of Beyond Lumina. Let's do it. I'll keep my little picture up here, I guess. I'm gonna turn my mic off though, so there's no distraction through that. Let's do this. Episode 1, Ravina. Evasive maneuvers, a cry came from the command chair. The loud crashing of machinery rang from beneath, drowning out the unending blaster fire against the ship's hull as the starboard side gravitational oscillators jolted to full strength.
The Scion barely missed the ship that was on a straight course for it. Sir, shields are down to 0%. Hull integrity is dropping rapidly, the chief engineer solemnly declared from his position at a large data station. What are they doing, Commander? The voice of the helmsman came from the front. I don't know, but keep your wits, Sergeant. Everyone, the commander replied, gritting his teeth. He could see the fear on more than one face. He himself only kept his composure because he knew he must if they were going to make it out of this mess alive, if they were going to survive to see their families and friends once more. The voice of the navigator came next. Sir, another ship has turned course toward us. Again, the Scion's crew made a last-minute correction and avoided collision. This is complete madness, the commander thought to himself. We've got to get out of here, but they're surrounding us. Why? Wait, what is that? Came the voice once more of the navigator. By Lumina, Commander, it's... Aezic was finally in view of Ravina, the homeworld he had not seen for over 10 cycles. Known for its excavation, production, and exportation of Aetherium, an extremely strong metal usually used in shipbuilding. Ravina was a rocky and mountainous world, and cold, for it was located closer to the fringe than to Lumina, the great star of their solar system. For this reason, Aezic found himself on a rather long journey home aboard a passenger frigate, certainly not the fastest of ships, because he had been on Longbiriv, another fringe world, which was at this time of the cycle quite far from Ravina. The Alliance transports were normally very full, and this one was no different. Aezic was, however, able to get a lot of rest during the deep space voyage, because he knew no one would disturb him for the whole ride, and not just because he was in the garb of a Free World Alliance military officer. Most, or all, while not sleeping as Aezic had, used the entertainment consoles, or the ECs, set up in each of the passenger stalls. These had any form of entertainment suitable to the device, to keep the passengers occupied during the long journey. Aezic had not bothered to boot his up since boarding the ship, since he had a harsh and nagging headache that could come out of nowhere, then go away just as quickly. So at the beginning of his trip, his mind was fuzzy, and he spent that time trying to piece together his thoughts. So far as he could come up with, he was on his way home on temporary leave, no doubt due to these headaches, he thought. After that, he slept for a while. Now nearing Ravina, Aezic turned on his entertainment console and flipped to a local news station that he couldn't have picked up until they had started to approach Ravina's local space. The approach and docking would still take a couple of hours. Has come up, the reporter began, since investigations began on how the fleet was rendered useless against the attack. Further, reports indicate that the attack coincided with the Tansorian Federation's blindside on the Alliance's renowned warship, the Scion. As many have speculated that the two attacks are related, and that the Tansorian Federation has now aligned with the Royal Ascendancy, Alliance officials are gathered as we speak discussing what steps to take next. Meanwhile, measures have already been put in place to ensure that another attack does not come upon Ravina. Aezic's heart nearly leapt out of his chest. He looked out of his window. He had noticed an awful lot of traffic around his home when he had got there, but it's been so long, he could hardly have called it out of the ordinary. So many of them are Alliance ships, he thought to himself now, after taking a closer look. The reporter continued, Since the arrival of Alliance reinforcements, many on-world have felt the most secure they have since the attack. Rescue and cleaning operations are already underway planet-wide. The newscast now began showing pictures of a ravaged world, helpless families split apart amongst the destruction and chaos. Aezic saw images of turmoil wrought in each corner of his planet. A major part of the free world, now nearly reduced to rubble in an instant. Aezic couldn't take any more and turned the entertainment console off. Now as they descended into the atmosphere, he could see the scars on his homeworld. even through its rocky and craggy surface. This must have happened very recently, he thought, or I would have heard about it already, especially with the Scion going down. Not even his family had told him anything, and they talked at least every few rotations. Last he heard from them, there was nothing going on out of the ordinary. Now he worried whether they were okay. He desired to know more, but didn't have the heart to turn the newscast back on, nor would he be able to have a conversation about it on the transport. He would have to wait until he got on world. For now, he pored over what he learned from the few moments of the newscast. Ravina was bombarded by the Royal Ascendancy, and the Tansorian Federation turned on the Free World Alliance and destroyed one of their warships, along with the crew, he had to assume. And whether or not the two were now aligned with each other, the Alliance was at war with both, particularly if the Royal Ascendancy had plans to finish what they started on Ravina. But ever since joining up with the Free World Alliance, Aezic was always sent to different systems, and so worried that he may not be called upon to help defend his own home. Although he was still a high-ranking member in the Ravinian military, the world's allegiance mandated that some like himself serve the Alliance military as well, and again in his case, serve them exclusively. The past 3 years, he and his crew had been patrolling the borders between Ascendancy and Alliance space, with relatively frequent dogfights breaking out in that time. He was happy to fight the Ascendancy, but would rather be protecting his home as well. This made him recall the reporters discussing the investigation into how the Alliance was so easily defeated at Ravina. Aezic wondered the same. His head was swimming once more when his transport finally docked on Ravina, in the large capital city of Cronus Prime in the Cronus state. Cronus was actually an enemy of Aezic's people, the state of Pania in antiquity, before Ravina entered the advanced space age and joined the Free World Alliance almost 2 centuries ago. The Alliance quickly put an end to the fighting amongst the Ravinians, bringing order, progress, and opportunities with their even more advanced technology. The states of Ravina then became more like regions, and one representative government was set up to be the world's voice in the larger governmental assembly of the Alliance. Aezic brushed his hand through his long, spiky brown hair, gathered his bags, and waited for the mass of people to unboard before he too departed the ship. It was not long after Ravina made contact with outside worlds that it became much of what it was now in Aezic's time. From the start, it was seen as an asset for its nearly impenetrable metal called Aetherium. It was something the Ravinians were well acquainted with even before reaching the space age, and their people were masters of harvesting and crafting it, as well as utilizing it in combat. Aezic himself was trained extensively in the use of an Aether Blade, a symbol of the Ravinian military. But as an officer of the Alliance, he was issued a concentrated plasma blade, an improvement over a regular plasma blade, which is indeed able to cut through Aetherium. Concentrated plasma weapons were very rare, as they were illegal for civilians in the Alliance and the Ascendancy, the 2 largest governments, and they were not even issued to non-officer members of the military. It was also one reason not many would dare cross an Alliance officer such as Aezic. The Cronus Prime spaceport was surprisingly empty, Aezic thought, for such a prominent city, especially since there was just a crisis, and there were so many ships in local space already. But once he left, he realized there were not very many people in Cronus Prime period. Is it the same everywhere else, he wondered? He quickly made his way to the nearby grav bike rental shop, where the stocky owner eyed him warily. He knew the salesman would recognize him as the son of Ravina due to his lavender eyes, a telling Ravinian feature. And so he did recognize Aezic as such, and eventually pointed him to a grav bike he didn't hate, a Vector VX4, an older model, but a vector is a vector, as they say. Aezic pulled his tri-optics over his eyes, kicked the ignition, and sped toward his home in Pania, a couple thousand miles away. The lilac skies of Ravina, so familiar to Aezic, were instead a dark, hazy red as he tore through the cool mountain ridges at an incredible speed. He was surprised how well the rental handled, especially coming from Cronus, he thought. As much as he loved a good grav bike, it didn't do much to console his frantic mind. He thought only of his family, 2 sisters, a brother, and his parents, as well as his friends and neighbors. Every place he passed in this once bustling economic center was now more like a ghost town. Was his home ravaged in the same way? The enormity of it all began to hit him. How could the Ascendancy strike so decisively against one of our most valuable worlds? He asked himself again and again. His mind for strategy was what earned him his rank at such a young age, but right now he couldn't think. Aezic was still feeling acute yet short-lived headaches ever since beginning the trip here from Lonvira. He had to drive extra cautiously because of them. Aezic eventually began to wind through a deep and familiar canyon, then finally made it to his home of Shefla in Panya, a beautiful city built into the cliffsides. Of the very few towns spared, he knew that it wouldn't be one of them, but his heart sank when he saw it nonetheless. He ascended on the grav bike a couple dozen stories, then after parking the bike in a hangar on the cliffside, made his way down the main road. From what he saw, Shefla was no different than the other ravaged villages. He hurriedly headed to his family's home, and threw wide the already open door on his way in. "Ma? Pa?" he shouted. "You here? Asta? Azor? Ama?" His voice died off. "Anybody?" He received no answer. The house was empty, abandoned it looked like, willingly or unwillingly. It means they could all be among the casualties. He tried to put the thought out of his mind and returned to the grav bike. Not far down the street he saw another man, whom he thought he recognized, but not by name. "Excuse me, sir," Aezic began as he neared the man. "Aye," he said with a salute. "How can I be of service?" "I'm looking for information on the whereabouts of the Aezic Zin family," Aezic replied. "They live just down the road there. Would you happen to know if they are still here, or point me to someone who might? I am their son." "By Lumina, young Aezic," the man said in exclamation. "It's Yerda from the refinery. I hardly recognized you with that officer's coat on." He referred to Aezic's military-issued paracloak, a large synth-cloth shroud that covered most of the large young man's physique. It was made specifically for descending from high places, and could also cover the face. It had the symbol of the Alliance emblazoned on the back, and his rank showed from 2 silver bars across both shoulders of the paracloak. "Yerda, yes," Aezic repeated, remembering the man now. "It's good to see you again, though I wish it were under better circumstances." "Yes," Yerda answered, "and I'm so sorry. Last I heard, no one has seen your parents or any of your siblings since everything happened. I wish I could give you better news for your homecoming. We lost so many in the initial bombardment and all the disasters that followed. Once the Alliance began sending aid, people quickly began fleeing off-world, fearing the Ascendancy would be back again. But I guess you probably know all that, given what you do." "Actually, I just learned about all this when I arrived, only earlier this rotation," Aezic replied. "We usually aren't told much that doesn't pertain to our own assignments. How long ago did this take place?" "It's been 12 local rotations now," Yerda said. Quickly doing the math in his head, Aezic was shocked. The attack on Ravina was one thing, but even more he couldn't understand how he had not heard about the attack on the Scion after so long. That news should have reached his crew immediately, and supposedly it happened the same time as this attack. What is going on here, he thought. "Well," Yerda began, seeing Aezic was lost in thought, "perhaps your best bet to find your family is to see if they grabbed a transport off-world. Hey, you alright?" Aezic was grabbing at his head and grimacing. "Yes, you're right," he answered after the painful headache ceased. "And I'm fine, just a headache that keeps returning. Thank you for your help, Yerda. And it's good seeing you again. Stay safe." "You too, Aezic." Yurda saluted as he left. And maybe go see a medic about those headaches. Aezic decided to take Yurda's first advice and go back to Cronus Prime, where the Free World Alliance's planetary embassy was located, the place where all matters of government were handled for Ravina. All records of off-world travel would be held there. Before leaving, though, he went back to his old home to take one more look around for any clues as to what may have happened. More calmly searching through the rooms, he still didn't notice anything that would hint at when his parents and siblings were last around. In fact, it seemed to him that the residence was already vacant for some time before the attack supposedly happened. His father's Aether Blade was also missing. It could have been looters, he thought, but it could also mean they escaped. But why wouldn't they return after everything was over? Leaving the house, he mounted the Vector VX4 grav bike and sped back through the canyon toward Cronus Prime. While going through the mountains, Aezic had another sharp headache, which nearly sent him off the grav bike. Once he recomposed himself, he saw someone approaching from the other direction. With his tri-optics, he could tell from a distance that it was another member of the Alliance military. A moment later, and the soldier was close enough for the tri-optics to run a bioscan and start determining who it was. As the two neared one another, Aezic beckoned to the other rider and came to a stop. The other soldiers stopped near him. By that time, the tri-optics had finished their analysis, showing the other person to be a female sergeant named Valerize, serving on the security crew aboard the Triptych, which was currently assigned to the defense of Ravina. Looks like she checks out, Aezic thought. Report, Sergeant, Aezic started. What are you doing out here? Why aren't you with your crew? Lieutenant, sir, Sergeant Rees replied. I saw you back in Cronus and noticed you didn't seem well. I went to my commander with this and he directed me to make sure you're alright. It seems a good thing I did, too. Aezic was a little surprised that a random soldier would want to go out of her way for such a thing, and even more so that she was given the okay to do it. I appreciate your concern, but there's nothing to worry about. I'm fine, just working through a headache. You should return to your commander. Well, I apologize, sir, Vala answered, detecting the dismissiveness in Aezic's tone. I was just concerned about the well-being of a superior I saw who was alone. I will go back to Cronus and leave you to your business. She restarted her grav bike. Aezic chastised himself for being so rude to someone clearly just trying to help. No, I'm sorry. I should be thanking you for your concern. I'm returning to Cronus as well. Let's ride together. Yes, sir. Vala smiled and pulled her own tri-optics over her eyes. As the two bolted across the rough landscape, they each discussed what they were up to on Ravina. I'm here on temporary leave, Aezic said. This is my home. I'm from Panya, where I just was. It's destroyed like everything else, and I have no idea what happened to my family. I just found out about everything that happened here when I got to local space earlier this rotation. Now I need to get to the embassy and see if they have any record of my family going off-world. I'm sorry to hear about your family, Vala replied. I hope they're alright. A lot of people did escape off-world, so it's a good possibility they did too. My crew arrived shortly after the attack to reinforce Ravina in case of another attack. We just ended our first watch and got on world for a break last rotation. They have us doing some light work helping citizens until we go back out to local space. But that's why I was able to come find you. I really do appreciate your concern, Aezic repeated, and I'm sorry I was so harsh at first. This whole thing still has me a bit shaken up. I understand, Vala replied, and there's no need to apologize. If you need to look at transport records, we should go see my commander, Sergeant Major Ravim. He knows the head of transport quite well and can probably get you in to see him immediately. In that case, I'm really glad to have run into you, Aezic answered. Please, take me to your commander, Ravim. The conversation made the trip to Cronus seem much faster than the trip to Panya. Cronus, too, like Shefla, was built into the side of a cliff, but the main part of the city spanned the top. Once in the world's capital, the two soldiers headed for the embassy, where the large military barracks was also located. Within the barracks, they entered the officers' wing, where Commander Ravim was given an office while on world. Aezic and Vala entered and saluted. "Commander," Vala said, "this is Lieutenant Zin, Commander of the Valiant." Ravim was already standing in salute as well, immediately recognizing a superior walk in the door. "He needs to get in touch with the Off-World Transport Office. Can you help?" Ravim was more than happy to accommodate. "Of course, Sergeant. Thank you for bringing me to him. I'd be happy to help. Let's go visit Brel right now. His office isn't far from here." The three of them walked down the vast and wide hallway filled with doors. "So, you're the commander of the Valiant?" Brel asked as they made their way. "You've seen a lot of action on the front, haven't you?" "You could say that," Aezic replied. "We really haven't been out there that long." "Longer than most," Ravim said. "Longer than most ever will. I really respect soldiers like you who really go through it." "Thanks," Aezic answered. "It really is nothing, though. I go where they send me, just like you. And by the looks of things, you might be on the front now, too." "Duly noted," Ravim chuckled. The three soldiers entered a tube-like system. "Brel's office is just outside the elevator, once we get to the embassy." They were enclosed in a semi-hard membrane, which then shot through the tube at a rather high speed, transporting them from the barracks offices directly to the embassy. Just as Ravim said, once they stepped out of the elevator, they were outside the door of the transport office. Upon entering, an older man with a thin nose and even thinner blonde hair looked up from his desk, and then gave a large, thin grin. "Ah, Sergeant Major Ravim, a pleasant surprise. And Sergeant Rees, if I recall. And who is the other one with you?" "Nice to see you too, Brel, as always," Ravim said jovially. "This is Lieutenant Aezic Zin." Brel saluted. "A pleasure to meet you, sir." "And you," Aezic saluted back. "Lieutenant Zin is from Ravina," Ravim continued. "He just came back here on leave, and he is looking for information on his family. He'd like to see if there's any record of them going off-world since everything happened. Actually," Aezic added, "if you don't mind, I would like to look at records going back a few rotations before the attack, just in case." "Of course, absolutely," Brel replied, pulling up a visual of all the transport history for the planet. "Are you looking for others named Zin?" "That's right," Aezic said. "Avon or Denena, perhaps. Or try Asta, Azor, or Ama." "Wow, there are 4 of you?" Vala asked, surprised. "You don't hear that often." "Ravinians used to be known for large families," Aezic answered. "It's not so common anymore, and not nearly like before. Before our space age, 4 was below average." Vala was astonished, yet intrigued. Brel put in the information, and they all saw the visual dwindle to nothing. "Sorry, Lieutenant," he started. "Only a handful of Zins in the last 20 rotations. None going by those names. Doesn't look like any Zins rented a ship in that time frame either." Now what? Aezic thought. He didn't know what he should do next. He already hit a dead end. "I see. Thank you for your help, Brel." "Sure," Brel replied. "I really wish I could have done more." "Why don't you come back to my office, and we can think of some next steps," Ravim suggested. "Thank you," Aezic answered, "but I think I'm going to return to Panya and start there. Last I heard from them, they had no plans of leaving the region. Thank you again for all your help. It has at least narrowed my search down quite a bit." "I'm glad to be of service, Lieutenant," Ravim said. Aezic began to leave the embassy. "Wait," Vala called. "Commander, do I have permission to escort the lieutenant?" "I appreciate it," Aezic cut her off, "but I think I'd like to be alone for a little while." Of course, sir," Vala replied. "Farewell, then." She gave a salute, and Aezic left. As he departed the embassy, Aezic's hope was quickly draining. He had no clues to go off of as to where his family may have been, if not in Shefla or off-world, but he would exhaust any possible lead to find them. Returning to the VX-4, Aezic began the journey once more to Panya. But just as he left the outskirts of Cronus Prime, two people on grav bikes appeared in his path. Aezic slowed down until reaching them, then hovered cautiously at a safe distance. "Identify yourselves," he said emotionlessly, his hand instinctively going to his concentrated plasma pistol. "You've been quite busy since coming to Ravina, Lieutenant," one of the men said. "I won't ask again. Identify yourselves," Aezic repeated. "And why are you following me?" "We keep track of everything that happens on this planet," the same man said. Aezic figured the other must be a subordinate. The one speaking was tall, nearly standing eye to eye with him. "I'm searching for some people from Panya," Aezic replied. "I'm on my way there now." "You won't find them," the man stated plainly. Aezic didn't know what to say. "Many from Panya are gone. They were taken captive by the Ascendancy." "How do you know this?" Aezic asked, astonished. "We saw it," the man answered. "There was nothing we could do to stop it, so we waited and helped those that were left." "Helped who?" Aezic asked again. "Those left in the towns?" "Yes," the man replied. "There were so few that we brought most of them together in Animov. It was relatively untouched." "But I was already at Shefla," Aezic said. "There are still people there." "If I were you," the man started, "I wouldn't trust anyone left in the towns." "And why should I trust you?" Aezic asked, wary of this man and his associates' intent. "You still haven't told me who you are." "If you're going to ask us that," the man said, "you ought to tell us your name first." "I am a lieutenant of the Free World Alliance, Aezic Zin." "Indeed," the man said with a smile. "We know who you are. And I am Zario Launer, lieutenant of the Ravinian military. It's good to have you back on world, Lieutenant. But obviously we have a lot of work to do. Let's get going to Animov."
All right. That is episode 1 of Beyond Lumina. Ravina, which, as you may know now, is the name of Aezic's home world. And obviously, we are dealing with like a space story, right? Beyond Lumina. Lumina being the name of the star, the sun of their system. So we're dealing with the interstellar story, if you will. Let's see. Oh yeah, before so if you look in the description, you'll see the music was created by me on the MetaQuest 2 using an app called Virtuoso. Super fun to make the music using like some cool space futuristic like instruments on there. So it kind of went hand in hand with making the music for Beyond Lumina. Also, so there's that in the description. You'll also find other stuff like the playlist to all the videos like this that are, the first 10 episodes that have been posted for a while, actually maybe over a year now. You could watch all 10, or you could just hang out live with us through these next 5 weeks. I think I'm going to be back Saturday evening again for episode 2, and then we'll do Wednesday evening and Saturday evening every week. We will do these live showings up until we hit 10, and then after that we will probably, I guess maybe we'll just keep releasing the videos after episode 10 on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and then also maybe when we release them we'll do live watch parties, because that's the thing you can do on YouTube. So perhaps we shall do that. I also wanted to mention about the whole Foundry updates, I guess, if you will. I have another fun game that I came up with today, just right out of the blue, because I kind of wanted one that wasn't a Wildlands game or a Fantasy Age game. So I just came to mind all of a sudden, pretty immediately, as a lot of games do for whatever reason. And it, I don't know, seems like it'll be super cool. Should be easy-ish to make. Anyway, I'm gonna back up here. Let's check out my, as I say here, my terrible artwork. Sorry, let me mute that. So this is Aezic Zin, the main character there, sitting on the transport coming home. Of course, this is, I didn't want to like go, I made these really quickly because, one, I don't have my artistic skills to leave a lot to be desired, and two, I didn't want to like spend a lot of time just making artwork that wasn't very good. So I just did this weird type of art, I guess, where I just like did this with a pencil to make everything pretty much, except for like Aezic's hair there. I kind of went diagonally like that because that's basically all his hair is. I guess there's others like this woman's hair over here is made normally, stuff like that. But then the way like people are just made like this. All the pictures are basically like that, as you'll see. I would love to have some cool Beyond Lumina artwork of any scenes. Of course, you don't have to make anything like I did here, but this is Aezic, on the transport entertainment console here. You can see everyone's chilling with their remote in hand, basically there. And then here's just an outside picture of what the world of Ravina looked like. All the ships out here. That's mauve color is the color of Aetherium, which is what the ships are. Which is that metal, the metal that was discussed, that is found for one place primarily on Ravina. That's a basically impenetrable metal. That's what all these ships, most ships, are made of. So that's what this mauve color is. That's why all these ships are this mauve color. Not that you can't, of course, paint the ships a different color, but just like anything else in that, speaking of that sort of thing, I suppose if you're going to add a paint job to it, you're going to be paying extra money, right, for the paint job. So you either get just the regular color of the metal, or you can get it painted for more. But you just see there's a bunch of regular colored Aetherium ships all over. You can see the scars on the planet left from the recent battle or recent attack by the Ascendancy. And this is, of course, the Free World Alliance. This is one world in the Free World Alliance, which Aezic is a part of which Aezic is a part, whose military Aezic is a part of. And yeah, again, his home in the Ascendancy, the Royal Ascendancy, is the attacking party, another major power of Lumina, of the system, as you'll hear it referred to, the system, the solar system that of Lumina. So there's that. This is Aezic picking up the Vector, what was it, VX4 grab bike there from the Cronus Prime rental guy, who's got that's a mustache there that you see on his face. And he's very happily pointing out the Vector VX4 to his fellow Ravinian, who again he could tell was a Ravinian by the big lavender eyes of Aezic, although they're misplaced on his head. That's what that was supposed to be. And this isn't a bandana. That's supposed to be his mentioned several times, his tri-optics, military issued standard issue tri-optics for, basically big goggles, not big goggles, but goggles that'll do all sorts of different things for you there. For all you nerds out there and people who, I don't actually have any games yet for this or anything. I have probably RPGs I could do, but I haven't really thought much about anything in the realm of that for Beyond Lumina, but that could always be something in the future. This is about as far as I thought into anything like that. Again, just for you nerds out there, I know there's a lot of you, since this is Nerds Templar, I'm sure. We got our, this is just a stun blade, or like a stun club, if you will. And it does what you would think, stuns a target with electrical pulses, which you sort of see there, I suppose. Level 1. Cheap, 20 notes. Notes is just the, name of the currency. And we're talking Free World Alliance currency. Then we got the synth blade, just a normal, basically what would be like just a standard, I guess, I don't know what you'd say, just standard metal weapon, right? Synth metal is what that is. So synth blade. And then you have the plasma blade mentioned, the concentrated one at the end here was mentioned. The plasma blade is the normal version of that, which again is basically, it's not a lightsaber, similar to, I guess, a lightsaber, but as the name implies, it is fire, basically. Like just, I guess, maybe it's not scientifically correct, but just like extremely hot, concentrated fire that makes that's able to somehow be, because this is just fantasy, so deal with it. Form into the shape of a blade by some sort of perhaps mechanism within the hilt. The hilt then, which is the same color there, because it's synth blade, it is synth metal hilt. You see there the plasma blade as it's used will increase, which increases its damage, if you will, its effectiveness when it goes from this like cornflower blue to more of a regular blue and toward of indigo, but not quite, I guess. And then you got your Aether Blade, level 3. We're not going to there's not too many levels here. What I maybe went 5 or something. Oh yeah, I actually just went up level as like this is the first level of a weapon. This is the second level of a weapon, third, fourth. So yeah, then you have your Aether Blade, which again, standard issue for the Ravinian soldiers, which Aezic is. But since he's, like it said in the story, first episode here, he primarily has to serve the Free World Alliance, because that's the more major nation. Like Ravina is just a world within the Free World Alliance, and so Aezic being that he's a high-ranking officer of both, but of also the Free World Alliance, of the Alliance, as you'll hear referred to shorthandedly. Since he's a high-ranking officer of the Alliance, that means that he has to spend nearly all of his time there within the Alliance military and its missions, instead of doing anything really within the Ravinian military, which is as most would be a little more bare bones, because they're, you know, sort of in a sense protected under the umbrella of the Free World Alliance, who's taken in a sense some of their manpower away, for the greater good, if you will. As it mentioned, I think, yeah, in this first episode, Aezic, primarily out on the outskirts, in the fray, in the midst of bad. Not that there's a big war happening, but he's on the front lines, if you will, and so he's used to the small skirmishes here and there with the royal ascendancy, dealing with that. But he's a primarily an Alliance guy, can't do a whole lot on his home planet. So again, as mentioned in the story, he wished he could, but knew that it was highly unlikely that he would end up on his home world of all the places that the Free World Alliance would probably send him. And finally, there, the concentrated plasma blade. It does say under my face there, military/illegal. 500,000 notes would be the going black market price, I suppose, for that. Extremely expensive, obviously, because it's illegal. The only people that own them, that carry them, are military officers, and of the three major powers, you'll hear them called in the future. So the Free World Alliance, the Royal Ascendancy, and the Tansorian Federation, which didn't come up here a whole lot in the first episode. Again, also not a ton of action, I suppose, in episode 1, kind of just setting the stage, if you will. So bear with me, things will heat up as we go, for sure. You will see. You shall see. This is Aezic arriving at his home, Shefla, built into the cliffs here. Again, terrible picture. You also see I think that might be the first view of the, and there will be a couple others. I guess that was kind of a view of it, but it was hard to see the background. I didn't really do much for the background there. You can see in the very back here is a picture of the sky, which is supposed to be more of like almost the same color as the Aether Blade here, maybe a little more purplish, a little darker, a little more purplish, trending toward blue, and not brown. But as you see there, the battle has left the atmosphere all messed up, and that's where you get the dark red, brick red, mixed with the brown look. But that's what that is. That's what's going on there. An unsightly sight for all Ravinians. There's another picture of the sky there in the scene where Aezic is meeting Vala Rees there, Lieutenant or Sergeant Vala Rees. Aezic is a lieutenant. Vala is a sergeant. You can't tell there. I think you'll be able to see better in one of the other pictures. Excuse me. Their little bars here on their shoulders to designate what a rank they are, but they're also a grav bike, military Alliance issued grav bike. You see the dark blue and the gold there is the Alliance colors, if you will. And you can get a little view there, get a better view, but there's just the emblem emblazoned on the back of the Free World Alliance emblem on the back of Aezic there. Basically 3 connected circles. There's an even better picture. And there you can kind of see some bars here. I think there's supposed to be like 3 or maybe just 1 gray bar here on his shoulder. I can't remember what there was there, but that's Sergeant Major Ravin. He is Vala Rees' commander. They they serve on a ship as well. He being the commander of that ship, Sergeant Major Ravim here. But they are currently on leave on planet. They were basically just providing some extra backup to Ravina after the attack. And here we see Brel, I believe was his name, right? I don't even know because he's just this guy. With a transport guy, the off-world transport dude, looking up things for Aezic there on his big globe monitor. You can't zoom in, but you can kind of see his pointy face, his thinning blonde hair. And then finally, I believe this is the last one, right? Other than the logos of all the different nations, if you will. Powers. There, the two guys met at the end of this episode there. Aezic's head at the bottom, and there's Zario Launer, and there's his subordinate dude hanging out, chilling, still. Hood drawn in the back, still on his grab bike. Yeah, there's that. And then, yeah, again, there's the Free World Alliance, FWA, Royal Ascendancies. Interesting looking logo there, emblem. And the Tansorian Federation's also kind of interesting. But there's kind of I guess there's kind of something behind all of them. All right. Yep, that's it. That's it, guys. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for chilling, and I hope you enjoyed the first episode. And of course, yes, please, any kind of artwork, anything that struck you as something, a cool scene that you would want to do, or a character that you would want to draw, or do some other art style of, let me know. Please send them. Discord links in the description. You can send anything there that you get. Join me there. I think it should be pretty easy to get in. Just use the link. If there's any problem, please give me a comment on the video and let me know. Again, like I said, like and subscribe. Comment whatever you're thinking. Any questions you got on episode 1, let me know. Even if I can't answer them, it's always enjoyable to know what the questions are, even if I just have to say you'll find out later or something. Or who knows, with one of these faces that makes it very obvious that I'm being cheeky. Yeah, I would super love to have anything like that. And check out the first episode of the Foundry vodcast as well, where I look at a bunch of AI-generated artwork for 2 different fantasy universes, and also solicit your artwork for those. Only being more important because I would like to turn those into some trading cards. 1 game is already prepared. There's 3 games total that we discussed, 2 of which have the same artwork. 1 uses less, 1 adds more, because their Fantasy Age is the series name, pretty much. That's what I'm going with, Fantasy Age. And 1 is like an actual trading card game proper, and 1's like a smaller card game that uses a lot of the same characters and effect names and stuff like that. So I could probably reuse a lot of the art for that. So I'm kind of probably going to do, I prefer to have that, and probably in the next Foundry episode, we'll go specifically into the artwork for that small card game that will then give us like half of the artwork, if not more, of what we need for the bigger trading card game, Fantasy Age. And also we'll go over the rest of the Fantasy Age artwork I would like to have right off the bat here. Bear in mind, yeah, we already have like, let's see, I wanted to do probably a seasonal release of sets in the future of this card game. So 4 a year, 4 sets a year, maybe even just 3 to begin. Who knows? Probably 4 though, just to keep people's interest peaked. And I think once we get going, it won't be too hard to come up with the stuff to do that. But it'll probably stay seasonal, which means 4 a year. And I already have, though, I think it was 6 or 7 sets of about 80 plus cards in each set. So That's how many I'm dealing with already. We're just dealing with the first couple in the first set. So that's what I'm worried about. And then we dealt with Wildlands was the other fantasy universe we talked about a little bit. Going to be another card game with that, so we could always use images for that, but also just world building kind of in the sense of the Wildlands stuff, because I could still use some names for the characters. I kind of have the characters down what I want them to be. Just need some names, some artwork, some beautifully personally crafted characters by you fine folks out there, instead of some AI machine that can't do anything right, really. It just gets lucky sometimes in making something that looks half decent, but still, I don't even want to use any of that for prototype purposes. I would prefer to have someone's actual artwork if I'm going to be printing it. But if it takes too long, I'm just going to have to go do what I got to do. But if I'm going to use the ink, I would rather have some nice art to use of some sort. So yeah, you can check out the Foundry podcast, see all that podcast, see all those images if something inspires you, even just chatting about the different things I'm looking for, if you have some kind of idea for that. And again, be on Lumina artwork, always appreciated. Send all that stuff to Discord. Anything else, Discord's the place for it now. We got it up and running. It's bare bones, but it'll do for now. Or just come and hang out, because that'll be fun too. But until next time, which will be tomorrow for Pokemon, I will see you. Have a good night. God bless y'all. 6 p.m.-ish Eastern tomorrow for Pokemon Collection. I'll see you then. Randy, Nerds Templar. Peace.